Coming up on today's show, we've got some important injury news to hit on leading into week 1 against the Carolina Panthers. Plus, Atlanta named their 5 captains for the 2023 season. And you might be surprised as to who was not on that list. Plus, we'll wrap up the show by discussing the idea of trading for Mike Evans. Now, before we get into all that good stuff, the bosses here at Chat Sports, well, just one boss in particular, he actually shares a wall with the studio we are in right now. He put a big sum down on the Panthers to win week 1. I'm not quite sure what was going through his brain at that moment, but he said that if we don't pick up 250 likes, there will not be a Falcons recap, win or lose, and he is kickstarting a Panthers YouTube channel here. So let's make sure that does not happen, right? Because I know the boys are going to win on Sunday, but let's make sure we get enough likes to just curb the idea of a Panthers breakdown by Chat Sports or whatever getting off the ground. Now, let's get into some injury news, starting with cornerback Mike Hughes. If you remember, he suffered the hip injury against the Dolphins back early in the preseason. He returned to practice, so very encouraging stuff right there for Atlanta because the cornerback room got beaten up during the preseason. Now, as for Jeff Okudah, he is still not practicing. He suffered an ankle injury, and there was a bit of fear that it could be a long-term serious injury. Ultimately, Atlanta not placing Jeff Okudah on short-term IR signals they believe he will be back within 4 games. So, might not happen in the first week, but I think we are going to see Okudah sooner rather than later. When you look at Atlanta's cornerback room, if you don't get Okudah, it's A.J. Terrell, D. Alford, and then hopefully Flowers or Clark Phillips maybe steps into a bigger role, or you get one of these two guys, right? Hughes or Okudah ready to go week 1. It looks like Hughes is closer to returning than Okudah is at this point, but the good news is you're not playing some Pro Bowl quarterback week 1. Bryce Young in his NFL debut is going to be drowning out there, and if it's just A.J. Terrell locking down, not even DJ Chark might play, so I don't know, Adam Thielen, you're going to be sitting pretty for the secondary if you have to give it an extra week. This is not a type of game where you've got to rush everyone back from injuries. So whether it's Okudah and or Hughes, I'm still confident in Atlanta's secondary. Now, another injury note here. Kadarius Hodge, the wide receiver who got injured in the preseason as well, he was not at practice. So there are some, thin rooms like cornerback and wide receiver that are a bit nicked up right now going into that home opener against Carolina. Cordero Patterson, he continues to work back from a soft tissue injury, was not placed on short-term IR. I know that was rumored to be a possibility. So the fact that he is not on short-term IR signals that if he misses week 1, the Falcons don't think it'll be much more beyond that. I don't think Patterson is going to play on Sunday. These veteran players dealing with soft tissue injuries, they're not bunnies. They can't just bounce back from that overnight. They do not want to rush this. They know that Patterson will have a good role in this offense, and they're not going to jeopardize the next 6 to 8 weeks for 1 week against the Carolina Panthers. Now, which injury is the most concerning to you? I think you can make solid cases for a lot of these injuries, right? Cordero Patterson was the spark plug on offense for the last 2 years or so. But on defense, without Jeff Okudah, you're going to have Flowers or Hughes maybe starting at CB2. Again, I'm not too concerned about Bryce Young tearing it up against Atlanta in his NFL debut. But let me know, which injury are you most concerned about down below in the comment section? Now, next up, the Falcons named their 5 captains for this season. And Rolly saw the list before me, and I tried to guess them all without looking myself. I think I went 4 or 5, but I had a feeling when he said, guess the 5 captains, there might be someone not on the list that everyone would naturally assume would be on the list, and that is Desmond Ridder. Say something nice about Desmond, he is letting other guys take the spotlight because Desmond Ridder doesn't need all that attention. Now, Chris Lindstrom, Jake Matthews are your 2 offensive captains, and honestly, not big-time Desmond Ridder defender moment here, but who's going to be a captain over those 2 guys on offense? They have been on this team for a century at this point, and they are great leaders. Defensively, it's Grady, Jarrett, and you kind of love to see this. Safety, Jessie Bates. When a new guy comes to the team and he's able to establish himself as a leader in one offseason, that speaks volumes to the type of character he is. So that's great to see. And then special teams, it is Younghoe Koo as the captain. So 2 offensive captains, 2 defensive captains, and then a special teams representative. So I don't want to make a huge big deal out of this, but it's not a non-story, right? I mean, it's not a huge story. This is not stop what you're doing, we're going live. Desmond Ridder is not a captain. But when the quarterback is not a captain of your team, you get some Bo Callahan vibes, right? You kind of wonder what's going on here. Brian Windhorst moment. Why isn't the quarterback a captain? Because the quarterback, just by being the quarterback, should always be a captain. And I've heard great things from people in Atlanta about Ridder's leadership and his ability to command the huddle this year, right? And take things over and be a vocal leader. Now, I don't know who you're going to knock off the captain's list for Desmond Ridder because all 5 of those guys are very good candidates. Sure, you could maybe move on from Koo, but if you want to do offense, defense, special teams, you take Lindstrom off? No. You take Matthews off? No, I don't think so. So last year, some chat stats for you guys. There were only 2 teams that didn't have a quarterback be a captain, San Francisco and Seattle. And we know how those seasons went for those teams, right? Seahawks, I thought, had a pretty good year. They went to the playoffs only to run into another non-quarterback captain team, the 49ers, who, if they didn't have Brock Purdy, blow up his elbow in the NFC Championship game, they could have been in the Super Bowl. So this is not a kiss of death or anything like that. This is not a, horrible sign. The Falcons are screwed. Their quarterback's not the captain. Worked out pretty well for Geno last year. I think he's a captain now. So I don't dislike Arthur Smith not handing Desmond Ridder, a captain's honor just by being a quarterback. But it definitely raises some eyebrows. I think we can all agree on that. Now, coming up next on the show, let's discuss the idea of trading for Mike Evans. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers star wide receiver might want out. So could Atlanta make some sense? Before we get to that, today's show, well, if we get more subscribers, there'll be more of these shows. But we need your guys' help at home. And we're at 13,442 subscribers. Let's get to 13.5 from today's show. Hit the sub button down below. Now, before we get on to the rest of today's show, let me tell you about our sponsor today, Game Time. If you are looking to score some great last-minute tickets for awesome deals, well, buying tickets with Game Time makes going to your favorite events the least stressful thing, which often that is the case. So if you find going to Falcons games, Braves games, Hawks games, whatever, a very strenuous and stressful experience, takes up a lot of your time hunting down the best deals, Game Time is about to be your new best friend, so they can eliminate that for you. Now, producer Rolly and myself, we spent the weekend in Charlotte at the UNC South Carolina football game. We just wanted to see some good ball, and you know what? Game Time made that so much easier for us because when we use our promo code FalconsChat, we got $20 off, which we all know that ticket prices, they're not the cheapest thing in the world. So let me tell you more about the awesome benefits of Game Time. You can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Plus, the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So I think a really cool feature about Game Time is you can see your seats before you buy, meaning you're not going to buy your seat, show up, and end up sitting behind a big pole or something, right? You actually get to know where you are going to be sitting and what your view of the field will look like. So snag tickets without stress thanks to Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code FalconsChat for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but once again, create an account and redeem the code FalconsChat for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All of that information is down in the comments and the description of today's video. Let's move on to talk about maybe Mike Evans taking his career to somewhere else in the NFC South. So the report is that the Bucs and Mike Evans and his posse are not making a lot of progress on a new contract coming to the former first-round pick out of Texas A&M, and 2023 is currently the last year on his contract. Now, Jordan Schultz was kind of the first one to break the news, tweeting out, the Buccaneers and four-time Pro Bowl wide receiver Mike Evans have not had any communication the last few days on a contract extension. I'm told they will make one last effort toward the end of the week. Evans has set a Saturday deadline. So Mike Evans, who I thought would be a Buck for life, maybe that's not the case anymore. And we know that Mike Evans is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. He's never gone below 1,000 yards receiving in a season. I think without knowing too many great Bucs players, he's probably like the greatest Buck player of all time. Sure, you have Brady, but like, over the longevity standpoint, we know how impactful Mike Evans can be for a team. He's never had less than 1,000 yards in a season, like I said. And Atlanta, you might not know this already, but if you don't, are you sitting down for this? They kind of need help at wide receiver. I mean, no disrespect to Matt Collins, but if you can tell me that Mike Evans joins Drake London and helps bring him along in his NFL career and maybe gets a couple of revenge games against his old squad because they were too broke and didn't want to pay him. Meanwhile, Arthur Blank is happy backing up the Home Depot truck and dropping off a boatload of cash. I'm not too terribly opposed to that. Now, it's unlikely that the Falcons make a trade for him for a few reasons, and maybe the biggest one of all is they're in the same division. Now, that's not impossible to get over. Interdivision trades do happen. We just saw the Raiders and the Chiefs make a trade a few days ago. That was for a defensive lineman. But last year we had, for example, TJ Hawkinson go from Detroit to Minnesota. But I think he could be a really good free agent target next year if the Bucs end up letting him walk. And we go back to something we reported on a few days ago, and that is the Falcons have been monitoring the wide receiver market according to a source, and that includes the trade market. So Atlanta clearly is doing some homework on improving their wide receiver room, and there's no doubt that adding Mike Evans to this wide receiver room improves it, right? I think we can all agree, remove the contract, remove what it would cost to get him in a trade. If you could pick up Mike Evans and drop him in Atlanta, that would make the Falcons a better football team. Now, for what price? That's a different conversation. But just, opening the door entry-level wise, I'm interested. No doubt about it. But let me know, would you trade for Mike Evans? Type T for trade, type P for pass. Give me your honest thoughts down in the comment section below. That's going to do it for us on this edition of Falcons Today. We're going to sign off, let you guys enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and we'll catch up later with more Falcons news and rumors.